Real reason that Afeni Shakur had Tupac after she just got out of jail. We're about to explore that today. Greetings and welcome to those who've just joined us. This is Amuna, and I pray everybody is doing well. So, if you caught yesterday's conversation, I said that I've gone over some things in times past. This is just going to be a bit of a highlight, and I'm going to put the whole thing for you. But give me 1 second. Thank you for your patience. I heard a lot of banging. Okay, so anywho, the whole Benita, welcome to the conversation. The entire playlist is on the front page of the channel, but today we are going to get into the truth according to Afeni, not according to Amuna, according to Afeni. So before I get there, Tupac, I'm going to play a little thing of what he shared about his birth. We know that this brother, he died early. He died very young, and he went through a lot of things. Some of it was not of his own doing, and some of it was of his own doing. To a certain degree, it was as if he was out of control and couldn't necessarily stop himself, right? And so I found that interesting and I began to do some research. So the book, I actually gave the wrong title of the book. It's not Diary of a Revolutionary, it's Evolution of a Revolutionary. Man, what's going on outside? Hold on 1 second. All these motorcycles passing. March, where are they going? All right, they passed. Okay, evolution of a revolutionary. Okay, so this is what he has to say, and he's smiling in this interview. But let's listen to what he has to say.
My mother was in the Black Panthers. She was in jail a couple of times.
She was in jail when she was pregnant with me. Yeah.
So you were right in the middle of this.
So when asked about his mother being in jail a couple of times, he's smiling, and he says she was in jail when she was pregnant with him.
Storm.
I'm still in the storm. I'm still in the storm. As a matter of fact, my mother was in a book. It's a book about my mother called "Look for Me in the Whirlwind," and I like to think that's my motto. Look for me.
So I had to go back into my memory bank because this is a few biographies ago. I think I had came across the book, but as we know, it seems that this is all interconnected because that is also something that Marcus Garvey popularized. That look for me in the whirlwind, and to our understanding from researching Marcus Garvey, he borrowed it from somewhere else, right? But so there was a book written, but that's not what we're going to read today. But let him finish.
Me in the whirlwind. Even now, this is all a whirlwind for me. All the publicity and attention for the family.
So it was a short video about him saying that his mother was in jail when she was pregnant with him. And most people who know a little bit on this story realizes that that is the case. So let me go ahead and share my screen here because we're going to read a bit about that particular time, right? When his mother is impregnated. So yesterday I was sharing, it was a short overview. And some people may be confused, like, Monisha, welcome to the conversation. What in the world is Amuna talking about now? So essentially, as I shared yesterday, if you didn't get an opportunity to see that video, check it out. But just to bring us all up to speed, she is arrested with her then husband Lumumba in the middle of the night, one of the leaders of the Black Panther Party. She was living at his home. He took on a second wife in not a traditional, a cultural marriage, and the second wife is Afeni Shakur. Okay, according to the narrative, they end up in jail. And the 21, that's why it's called the Panther 21. Welcome, Renee, to the conversation. The Panther 21 trial, it's a huge trial. And I can't go into all of that now. But what we just need to know for this conversation is that when she went into jail, she was not pregnant. Okay. So when she went into jail, she was not pregnant. And her then husband, cultural husband, Lumumba, was also in jail. It was agreed upon that the two women, which is Joan Bird and Afeni Shakur, as well as the younger Jamal Joseph, and I think there was someone else, was decided that they were going to take the bail money for them and allow them out of jail so that they can campaign and raise finances for those who were left back, because there were 21 of them that they scooped up. Okay. So long story short, Lumumba's wife, Afeni Shakur, is on the street going to speaking engagements along with others so that they can raise awareness for this injustice of what was happening to them. All right. She wasn't, when she was first arrested, she wasn't pregnant. That this is, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And the reason, and let me just pull that up now. When they were first arrested, and because I read this a while ago, and y'all know when I do deep dives, I dig up a lot of information. I even have to refresh myself of the information that I was able to uncover, right? So that's what we're gonna do a little bit in this conversation. So I want to get the date because now the dates are out of my mind. When they were first arrested, the initial arrest, she wasn't pregnant, right? So let's get some dates, even for just for my memory. Let me share the screen real quick. Hold on 1 second. 1 second, because I even remember having a picture of the actual arrest. So let me get that. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so this is the picture of the actual arrest here. I'm doing this live, y'all, so sit with me. All right, boom. So this is the picture here of the actual arrest when they rolled up on them in the middle of the night. Okay. Let me see if I can make it bigger here. These are the pictures. Lumumba is behind her. She is in front. If you remember the story, if not, that would be a whole nother different story of going into the story. But if you could see the date on the arrest here, it's saying April the 2nd, 1969. He's born in June of 1971, right? Let me double check that because I have to go back into my memory bank. Hold on. Get started on one time. He is born 1971, correct. So the initial arrest, she's not pregnant. The initial arrest is April the 2nd, 1969. Okay, just to get a timeline going on. Anywho, so what's happening after this point is that they're in jail, as I said, and there's a lot going on, and they're trying to get money, and they decide that they're going to bail them out. And I speak a lot about that as I read through the story, and I actually went yesterday and put together the playlist. So if you want to start to the beginning and you just don't want outtakes, you could do that as well. But for the sake of this conversation, so when she comes out, this Billy Garland, where's Mr. Billy? Where's Mr. Billy? Billy Garland, I'm not even going to go off on Billy Garland, okay? But Billy Garland doesn't come into later into the conversation. So let me just go ahead and continue here. Let me pull up the book. So this is just an outtake from Evolution of a Revolutionary, written by Jasmine Guy. It was narrated, it was told to her by Afeni Shakur over an extended period of time. It wasn't just like, boom, let me write your book. It took years for her to build the trust, for her to actually, divulge this information, for her to write the book. I actually was going to start with what I was speaking about yesterday, but I said, no, I think it's important to start on why she decided to keep Tupac during the midst of all of what was going on. Okay. So that would mean she doesn't conceive till around September of 1970. Some time has passed. So let's read. So she's telling her the story. She goes in and out of present day, and she's telling her the story of how she ends up getting pregnant, right? So it says, even though it says, yes, absolutely, Afeni says, I understand what she did, and I'm sorry for what I did. But let's get back to battle number two, because she's talking about how all of this stuff is happening at the same time, right? So basically, Lumumba, who is the cultural husband, Shakur, that's where they get the name Shakur from. It was from this family, and I are fighting, right? He wants to run me in prison! Exclamation point. So she's in her feelings, like, how dare him? He's not the boss anymore. He's behind bars. And early in the story, she talks all about how she was attracted to him because of his power, because of his stance, because of all of these things, right? So she says he wants sex, he wants some fun. And she refused because to have sex in prison under those conditions is some slave stuff to her. This is important to note, because when we go over the second situation of how and why she becomes addicted to crack, this comes back again. This is very cyclical, but let's continue. So basically, Lumumba, the only time they could see each other is when the lawyers would come around so that they can, work on their case. And so she was like, yo, you are violating right now. You know what I mean? You are violating right now. So I don't think so. So anyway, there is no freedom in having sex in those terms. Two prisoners, two incarcerated Negroes, waiting for a chance to sneak behind Master's back for a few minutes of blah, 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 blah. That was a disgrace. I refused. So she's not in agreement. Okay. So she is letting us know off the bat it's not Lumumba. But again, why would Lumumba be having these expectations? Because they're supposed to be quote unquote married. Okay. So let's continue. That was a disgrace. I refused, although I knew people would have made it happen for us, Afeni says with disgust. Like how? This is Jasmine talking. I wonder, how do you screw in a big visiting room or holding area? I thought there were always guards or other inmates around. So Jasmine is over here trying to put it together. She's trying to put the pieces together because it's not making sense, right? We were all in a separate detention centers around the city. They made them sure to separate them, Afeni recalls. 13 of the 20 were standing trial together. So to meet with their lawyers before court, they would all be together in one room. Briefly, but just so that they could say the co-defendants had time together with their lawyers. So instead of homie over here thinking about how he gonna get out of jail, he over here thinking about how he gonna get some front. I can't. Let's continue. Okay. So Lumumba, so she's answering the question of how was that? What was the logistics? Wanted you to do it there in that room? Afeni shrugs. What? Everyone would just turn their heads or something. Yeah, that's off. That's off right there. But anyway, she says some slave stuff on the plantation. She spits out the tea in the, yeah, I mean, sugar honey iced tea. So how long did you abstain? Because why is homie all in the business? She says, how long did you abstain from sex? Prison sex? Afeni corrects me. 11 months. It was 11 months before those women could raise bail. So this is why I said when they originally get arrested, 11 months from April is back to March of 1970, right? So she's saying that 11 months is how long it took the church women and all of the people that was advocating for them in the community to raise bail. So up until this point, she is not pregnant with Tupac Shakur, or his name was Leslie Crooks in the beginning, and then they changed his name, right? So it goes on to say, $100,000. We didn't have that money. That money had to be raised. So they wanted $100,000 to bail them out of jail. I remember Glow and her husband, Tom. Glow is her sister, right? That's Tupac's aunt. Came down to the bail hearing. They had scrapped together every dime they had from every neighbor that they knew to get that $100. But the judge said $100,000, and he meant 100,000, not 10% of that. I had never heard of that many zeros. I couldn't believe $100,000 in 1969. And the reason they set that bail so high is because they did not want them to come out, right? They did not want them to come out. Again, the whole story about how it went down, we talk about it at another day. But for the context and purposes of this conversation, she's telling us that there's beef in the camp, right? And especially because now she found herself, she liked it when she was, the wife of one of the leaders, you know what I mean? But now she was at the wrong place at the wrong time. She says, while I was in the woman's house of detention, I built relationships with white women who needed to touch the hem of your garment so that they could be made whole. So that's funny. They would write me and visit me and ask me what they could do to help. Well, there were all these women inside who needed $50 to get out of jail. So I asked these women to form a bail fund for women in jail who needed less than $500 for bail. So she says she figured that she might as well get them out since her bail was impossible to raise. So this is important to note in this story because she really thinks, well, the charges that they have against them is not no play charges. So they really think, she thinks to a certain degree that she's not going to get out, right? And if she does, how are they really going to beat this case? It says here, nobody had ever done anything for these women before. A lot of them were just prostitutes whose pimps were mad at them and wouldn't bail them out. But they didn't have $50, so they just stayed in jail. Afeni notes some of them had children, they had kids. So these women from the outside who wanted to help, you ended up helping your other inmates, she adds. This was her first contact with a lot of white women, Afeni explains, and these women tried to help. Of course, there were those white women who wanted to know if I knew a black man interested in having a baby with them because they wanted to have a baby that's coffee colored, who they could name Coffee. I'm done. What? Anyway, I wanted to crush the bee for asking that stuff. Stupid, she says. But she spent 11 months in jail. So these 11 months, these first 11 months, she's not pregnant. She's not pregnant these first 11 months, okay? Until some of the well-meaning white women who helped collect the bail fund were able to raise her bail money. Because again, she, Joan Bird, and Jamal Joseph, the younger ones and the women, they were saying you got to get them out first. Even though a lot of people they're really young. They were teenagers, late teens, early 20s. Like they're really young. Those who were joining this movement at the time. Anyway, these women had been, but I think Jamal was like 16 or 17. Like he was one of the youngest of all of them. These women had been in the labor movement in the 40s and 50s, and they got together with my church, with her family and the women from the church, and put up $66,000 in cash, $34,000 in church property. It was amazing, she says. Now, this one skips the thing, but I'm gonna jump down here because I can't find my other copy. So we just gonna have to work with what we got right now because I kind of know what I'm looking for. So we're gonna jump down. It says here. So there was some stuff that was happening, right? And she was concerned because one of the people who got bailed out, I forgot his name right now, it'll come back to me. He was going to jump bail. And if one person jumped bail, he was going to go to Liberia, jump bail, and he wanted everybody to jump bail and go. And she said no, because by that time, when she came out, well, actually said 11 months she was in there. When she actually came out is when she conceived. This is how Billy Garland comes into the conversation. So it wasn't for the husband who was still in behind bars. It was for someone else, which would have created a scandal in that time. So she decides that she's not going to jump bail. She's not going to abscond because she is pregnant. Okay. And so what happens is the bail is revoked and they have to go back to jail. Okay. So she says here, that's where her head was, saving her life and saving her unborn child. So of course, in the last 2 pages, something happened. But again, like I said, just click on the playlist and you can listen in sequential order. So you were still going to court dates during all this? She says, yes, they were in the middle of the trial. They had the biggest FBI agent on the stand. And then on Monday, it was February the 3rd, 1971, when Joan and her got off the elevator and they could feel something was wrong because the other people who were supposed to show up did not show up. Leah, welcome to the conversation. I think it was one guy, and he ends up going to Liberia. So because he doesn't show up and they showed up to court, boom, 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 they're taking them back in. So she says it was February the 3rd. So by this time, she would have been, which part were they? In by June, July, August, September. So she would have been October, November, December, January, February. She would have been 5 months pregnant. Okay. When Joan and her got off the elevator, they could feel something was wrong. They walked into the courtroom and the co-defendants hadn't shown up because they jumped bail. Their bail was revoked. It had been revoked before, but that was for being late and stuff like that, and they let you out. Now it's revoked because people had absconded. Her co-defendant, the men, Jamal, Daruba, and Ketgon, in the middle of the trial. So it's interesting because when I was doing this study, the elder Daruba is still around. Jamal is still around, but Daruba is more inclined to tell the story. So if you're interested in that, there's been some interviews for him on the internet once you kind of get the storyline in order. It says the jury sees this and Joan and her are back in jail and she is pregnant. So remember, the name of this thing is about the truth about what was going on with his mother and why a lot of this stuff kind of followed him during his life, right? This is all while he's in conception. This is before he's conceived. This is while he's in jail, okay? Or she's in jail. So it says here, they went straight to jail, and the next time she came home was a month and 3 days before her acquittal. The same women that bailed her out before bailed her out again. And then she says, God bless them. The men just didn't show up after all that money was raised. She was stunned, absconded. Afeni nails the words into the smoky bedroom air, jumped bail, and they had the right to. You know, every individual has to do their own time. So you can't tell somebody else not to jump if they want to. But they had an agreement, she says, that if anybody didn't want to go in, they would tell the others. Now, in present day, one of the ones who jumped said they did have the conversation, and she said she didn't want to go, right? I don't know. That was just a little tidbit. So they jumped bail, the men, and not only did they not tell her and Joan, they left the country under the pretext of supporting Eldridge Cleaver in Algeria. So that was the book I was talking about, the Soul on Ice book, the Eldridge Cleaver book. But by this time, there is tension in the movement, right? There are those who are for East Coast, those are for West Coast, and then those who, which Eldridge Cleaver's faction, who decide to leave the country altogether. Okay. So it's a lot. Anyway, talking about they had to take care of some party business with all that was going on. She calls BS. Afeni is spitting out words, and then she calls them, names. Let me go ahead and jump down here. Then she says, she abruptly announces battle number 2, battle for the baby. She sounds triumphant. She says, Faye, we are on 3. I correct her because her name is Faye. Her real name is Faye. Her adopted name is Afeni, right? So she says, really, we almost up to 5. Yeah, look, number 1, you fought against being strip searched. Number 2, you fought to defend yourself. Number 3, you fought Lumumba about having sex while incarcerated. Oh, wow, we might have to do 7 then because I didn't count that the strip search thing. That, which was another story. That didn't feel like much of a battle to her, she says. And she forgot to tell you that Lumumba, and I forgot to tell you what Lumumba did when he found out that she was pregnant. So it was a scandal at this time, as I was saying yesterday, because it's in the newspapers. People are following this trial. It's one of the biggest trials to date of this nature. People are following the trial. They know this is how she is getting launched. She's launched into the spotlight and popularity by being the wife of this man at this time, this cultural wife of the man at this time. And now this man is seeing you come to court and seeing you, knowing that you rejected him, right? But then seeing a growing belly, right? So that's when I said what I said concerning what's his name? Billy Garland in his present interviews. I'm like, something is missing from this story, especially based on the way Afeni is telling the story. So, anywho, let's continue. Oh no, I realized it wasn't his baby. So this is Jasmine Guy realizing at this moment that it's not the husband's baby. It wasn't a battle, really, now that I look at it. He was just enraged. Here she was not giving him any front, which with him, but partaking with other men, which I told you we had an agreement that we could do. And this is what she maintains throughout the book, I guess to make it okay. But it didn't look like he was in on that agreement. Let's continue. So basically, she said they had an open relationship agreement. I don't know. If he was repping Islam, I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know. It says, right as long as the other person knew about it, I remember their trippy vows. But it says, well, I had never acted on that before. I never went with some other man, even though we had an open relationship. Again, this is her recapping. I don't know much about that one. Why would he be so enraged if you really had an open relationship? Okay. You really didn't have time to have an affair. You were married for 5 months before Lumumba got arrested. And that's also important to note that this quote cultural marriage, it was not long later, as she said, 5 months later, and then, big things are happening. It says 3 months after that, you were in jail too. Not a lot of time to get some on the side, I say. So she says this was the first time she went outside the marriage. Then she got pregnant, which she didn't even think she could because up until then, let's see, 1971, she was 24 years old. She had never gotten pregnant. So she didn't think she could. She was really surprised to be pregnant. So Lumumba called her a slut and said 3 times that he divorced her, which in cultural marriages, in certain cultures, you say it 3 times and then whoopity doo, you're supposed to be divorced. So he finds out that she conceives by someone else. He's enraged. It's kind of scandalous a little bit. You understand? Especially in light of this trial. And uh, what can he really do? He's behind bars, right? And she's maintaining that they understood they had a open relationship. And that was it. No screaming, no tears. Well, after the trial was over and he got out of jail, he asked her to please take him back, but she said she didn't think so. And then it goes on. She says, dang, I say marry thee 3 times or divorce thee 3 times. That's it. But look, she says she had a lot to deal with at this point. Now she's in jail, pregnant, and that spam and water crap they kept called food ain't cutting it. But to get decent nourishment, she had to go to court. So she went to court to get an egg and a glass of milk each day for the baby in her belly. The baby in her belly is Tupac, right? But it's interesting that she doesn't, if I'm remembering correctly, she doesn't give the name of Billy Garland until she talks about how offended she was when later on when Tupac is shot, he shows up. For whatever reason, throughout this time, even when he shows up, she's trying to play interference. Knowing that this person is the father, she's playing interference between Tupac and his father. And if you'll hear him, he'll tell you when he woke up from the Quad Studio shooting, he saw a man and he looked at him and he looked just like him and all this stuff like this. So anyway, she says, did you win? I won. I had support from women during all that. Women had to find strength from other women because is what gets us through. The stuff that the old lady told you and the women in jail have told me I was pregnant. That old lady told me to put Vaseline on my belly so that I don't get stretch marks. Anyway, she goes on and on and on. But the key reason as to why she said, and I'm trying to get it here, that she kept the child is because she really was convinced that she didn't know the fate of what would happen. And that if she did spend her time in jail, she wanted a piece of her to be free. And so she chose not to get rid of the child, which would be him, and she chose to bring him forth. Okay. So that is, here we go. There's the book. I read that book, the Whirlwind book that he speaks of. It was like a pamphlet book that they were talking about each one of their stories when they were trying to big up everybody who just joined us. They were trying to humanize all of the Panther 21. So she was resistant in giving her information, but she participated nonetheless. But again, a lot of that information is already up here for the purposes of this. She didn't want to get rid of the child, even though she knew it would have been a scandal because she was faced with jail time. And she wanted to have somebody, a piece of her on the outside. So it says she got pregnant while she was out on bail. She never thought that she was going to spend the rest. She, no, wait, I never thought that I wasn't going to spend. So she didn't think that she wasn't going to spend the rest of her life in jail. She was never getting out. And that's why she wanted to have this baby. Same thing I just said, right? So that's an interesting reason. And again, he feels a lot of this. He's in vitro. He has embodied a lot of this energy, this back and forth, this turmoil, this all of these things. It's like into the child, into the soul, right? So she says that she really thought she was going to spend the rest of her time behind bars. And because she wanted to leave something here in the free world, she was going to jail for 312 years. That's how much they was trying to pump them up on, 312 years. So she was like, nah. She was thinking, that's what she was facing. But her sister was out. If she thought she was getting out, listen to what she said. She never would have had the baby. She probably would have had gotten a AB. That is crazy. That's wild. If she thought she was going to get out, because you could see the precarious situation that she's in. A, you conceive for somebody else. B, you're supposed to be out there ringing the alarm to raise money. C, you have to turn and face your accuser, which is Lumumba at this time. But you also have your own fate that you have to work out with fear and trembling, okay? Because you are facing ridiculous amounts of time. And your thought is, at least somebody's going to be outside. But she articulates that if she thought she was going to get out because they didn't that she would have never had the child. So when he talks about, Tupac talks about feeling like darkness is following him and shrouding mystery and all of these things that he talks about, it's not some people. I saw a video recently, oh, he was an actor and he was very complex and troubled, and for good reason, as we are seeing here. There's not a lot of people who have the story of what was really going on and the thoughts and the feelings of the parents before that time. So when we see him, like I said before, come later on and in this East Coast, West Coast beef, thinking to violate someone else's wife that used to be his friend, it didn't just come out of nowhere. It didn't just come out of nowhere. Anywho, so she says she would have gotten an abortion if she thought she was going to come out. She goes on to say that she thinks it's hard. This is for her to say, knowing what a beautiful baby she did have and knowing what a life, and it cuts off right there, right at 116. But I kind of wanted to just put that right there because, yeah. Another part that's interesting, and I shared it before, I didn't cue it up right now, but is that was the thought that was in Billy Garland's mother after she had him. And that's how, according to his testimony or his interview, that's how his mother dies when he's 5-6 years old, is that she gets an illegal abortion and she dies. She hemorrhages from it. And his thought is if he could have saved her, he would have. So it's very interesting that She could have never gotten pregnant before. This is Afeni I'm talking about. But she interfaces with this guy who lost his mother to an abortion. And because of her situation, she opts out of an abortion and has this child. And the child comes and looks just like the granny. Let me see if I can get a picture. And then again, if you want to learn more, if you want to hear more about this, I'll just put the link to the, I'm not going to stay long today. I'll just put the link to the full, I did it like a year or two ago. And the next time I will read over something that I found, some declassified paperwork. I don't know why. All right. And this is why, this is the grandmother. This is Billy Garland's mother, according to the story. And he looks just like the granny to me. He looks remarkably similar to his grandmother. From the nose, the eyes, the smile, everything. And this is the woman who died early because, according to her son, she had an illegal abortion back in those days. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share today. That trial is why Tupac came into the earth, according to his mother, because otherwise she was probably hidden it and never wanted it to come to the light of day. All right, so let me read and see what you guys got going on here, and then I'm going to go ahead and boogie. Again, the playlist is up on the channel. There's some hard stuff to hear. So when we talk about how she gets addicted to crack, she goes in. I mean, I had to step away from the book after I read that. I was like, what? Anyway, it says she represented herself in court and won. She fought hard in the court for her freedom. Yeah, that part of the story is also interesting. It essentially, her back was against the wall and she had to do what she had to do, right? Especially because she was present with one of the witnesses that ends up being an informant, and she was familiar with this witness, and it was through the questioning of this witness that she was able to poke some holes in the prosecution's argument, right? So that was interesting, the legal strategy that was used to win the case, right? Kaya says, yeah, if you read and learn about people, this is why it doesn't make sense to idolize anybody. Their stories are lessons and things to learn from. But when you look beyond all of what people try to make people into and glamorize them, it's a mistake. It is a mistake because they're human and they made some choices that, they had to live with until the very end. All right, Whiskey. Enjoy your evening. So with that said, yeah, if you haven't read the book, it's also on Amazon. Check that out as well, or from your local library or wherever you get it, thrift books, wherever you get it, it's online. I will come back again, and I did see some declassified files because there are people who sometimes we just talk, you know what I mean? Or people just look at it from angles that interest them, right? But this was this person's real life. It was their real existence. And the music that we got, the experience that you got was from that person's pain, from that person's brokenness. And sometimes we overlook that because we seem to enjoy feeling to a certain degree what they felt, not realizing that not only did they feel this, they had to live their everyday existence being this individual. Yes, she did. And Leah, it was her as well as those who were in the Harlem faction of the organization, right? And so yes, they did the school, the kids breakfast school program. They were realizing that the children were going to school hungry. They became to come up with the sickle cell programs. So it was a collective endeavor. She walked into what was already happening. And what I realized through some of the records were that A, they were very young, and B, they were like promoting people in the door, you know what I mean? Like, get in and get to work. You know what I mean? And so that was kind of how she found herself, even though she didn't feel prepared enough. That's how she found herself in this position. And let's not forget that she was drawn to Lumumba because of his position, according to her. Let me see. According to her, she was drawn to him because of his standing. Hold on. Hold on. I did say I was gonna. Hold on. Oh, there's no preview for this one. So basically, she liked the way his family was set up. She liked the order, that she liked the protection that it seemed that they were able to give. She admired him, his brother Sekou, right? She was drawn to them because she was coming from a level of brokenness. She used to be a daddy's girl, but her father was abusive. So there was a lot of things that was going on with her. So when she saw him, she gravitated towards him. And, you know, things went pretty quickly. And then before you know it, she was in the house. And then before you know it, they were already under surveillance, and she got swept up in that whole conversation. Oh, so I've been here. I don't know why. I don't know if YouTube is not sending out. I'm welcome back though. I don't know why YouTube is not sending out the notifications. I've been here beyond the Bob Marley series. We went over a number of things, so definitely check out the topic. Check out the videos as well, because I've been here for a good little minute. I don't know what's going on with YouTube and these notifications. So again, I have some more little tidbits that I found interesting during this book, and then yeah, I'll just do some highlights, and you guys check it out from there. Any other questions or comments before I boogie? Feel free to let me know. I'll show you guys where I was deeper into the study. So if you go here, you're going to see more information. Okay. Let me just show you where it is. Let me just show you where it is. I'm glad you have made it back as well. So if you go to the front page of the channel, you see how many videos? We have a lot of good videos for you, okay? So this is what we're doing right now, but what I've done since the Bob Marley series is this is a biblical study of stolen destiny, right? Destiny swaps. This, of course, is just a lot of the different videos. Here is the Tupac and Afeni Shakur playlist. There's like 14 videos in there. So I'm reading over I'm reading over I keep calling it Diary of a Revolution, Evolution of a Revolutionary. I'm reading that. These ones right here is that particular one. And then this, oh no, wait a minute. About what the people thought. This one here is Mr. Garland. And as he began to speak more around last year, I realized that I don't know. Some of his story, the math is not mathing. So I go over that as well. And again, there's all kind of videos here, so definitely check it out. So if you're interested in this one in particular, it's on the front page. All right, it's on the front page. So let me see lastly before we boogie. No, he passed in, his mother passed away. No, she passed away. No, he passed in 96. Yeah, because Biggie passed in 97. It was 96, September. And then March of the next year, the following year, is when I remember that like it was yesterday. It was all over the news. I remember this whole East Coast, West Coast. It was so, like when you lived through it, it's crazy to look back and be like, wow, that was, it seems so long ago, but then again, it doesn't seem so long ago. Like you lived, just like how people lived through the civil rights and lived through Malcolm X era, and you remember it. That's kind of how, Leah says, when are you going to back to Garvey? I'm gonna go ahead and do some touch points. That's what I'm doing now. I'm like, there's so many videos that I've already done, and some people don't even know it's there. So we're gonna just do some highlights, like I did over the Bob Marley series. Just do some highlights, and then people can go back and rediscover the series if they so choose. But once again, when they do get overwhelming and out of control, like Garvey and Amy over there, Amy number one, and the teeth, okay, I had to give them a break. So my apologies, guys. I also have to think about my mental wellness and really authentically show up to the conversation to do what it is that I do, not just read, but add value to the conversation. And so I don't know that I was disappointed. I was kind of disappointed, like to learn that this degree, this level of Garvey and Amy's pettiness in the world purview. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? To me, that was like I had to okay, yeah, okay, at first you wanted to get with the European neighbor. Okay, I understand that. And that was all fun. And then you came and you wanted to do things and you wanted to be progressive. Okay, I get that. But then when you and Amy started getting into this like very toxic exchange, and neither one could stop and say, you know what, this is too much, and putting it in the paper and put it in the tabloids, and like I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? So yeah, it I needed a moment on that one. I needed a moment. I needed a moment. Yeah, there are layers and layers of trauma. There are. There are layers and layers of Benita, you're welcome. You are welcome. This research, it's not, sometimes when you stop, it's really a pause, right? It's really a pause, because how can you look at the work of Marcus Garvey alone is so expansive that there's people who dedicate their entire life to just knowing about Marcus Garvey's life, because that's how expansive it is, right? It's like you're sitting down at this meal that they just keep bringing out more courses and more courses. So with that, I think we went through, I forgot how many episodes we went through. And let me see how many episodes we went through in the Garvey situation. And I was like, okay, Garvey, you on vacation. We went through 14 different episodes. 14 episodes on the Garvey, and I was like, okay, Garvey, we're gonna take a little break. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna take a break. Yes, Leah, they were beyond petty. Amy and Marcus, they was a piece of work. Amy, as Kaya said, Amy was a piece of work, but Marcus was a piece of work, man. Like they and I didn't even get to Amy number two, because to me it just seems like how do you show up? I'm sorry, I know this is the end of the Tupac thing. For those who just joined us, we're just doing some recap. I guess it's the end of the Gregorian year and you just reflecting. But how do you get invited to your friend's wedding as the bridesmaid and then turn around and finesse the man and then married him? Like, no, sir. What in all of Housewives of Atlanta? We'll do a recap in Marcus too, but for right now, I'm doing a recap on uh Afeni Shakur. So join me next time, and I will talk about how she gets hooked on narcotics, on crack, according to her, and instead of saving the life of that particular child, she was looking to get rid of the life. So that one is a trauma or a trigger warning, right? And then after that, we will take a look at some of this declassified paperwork. All right. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Hold on. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We definitely going to tune in once again, and everybody have a blessed night. You don't know already? Check out Island Twist, because when I get some more time, I'm going to write. Y'all going to be like, yo, Muna, I know Muna. Yo, sis used to promote her book. It's going to blow up, y'all. It's going to blow up. Caribbean to the world. You don't know already how it go. So, yeah, if you haven't already, if you haven't left your review, feel free to do so. And yeah, we'll be back once again. Island Twist follows Jackie Brown, a young girl who finds herself head over heels for the new island boy at school in fresh outer yard, and Jackie has the fever. But as she navigates the ups and downs of her new crush, things quickly spiral out of control when her not so secret admirer becomes determined to sabotage her relationship. So check out the new novel Island Twist over on Amazon today. Now back to the story.